Excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
Everybody ready?
ready.
Get your feet up, get your favorite tea, enjoy this stuff, and here we go. So, cryptids of the world. I started by researching what was the most popular, and I narrowed it down to 10 with three honorable mentions. So, we're going to talk about 13 of them this evening. I blended some historical sightings, cultural legends, a lot of magical folklore. These particular mystical creatures that I focused on, I found really fascinating, and some of them are actually kind of scary, which kind of threw me a little bit because I don't get scared with stuff like this. It's just so interesting. All right, I'm going to the other slide if I can. Here we go. I need to try to make this go away because I can't read. Okay, there we are. So I got a couple of different definitions. I thought it was apropos here. Cryptids are actually animals or other beings who present existence, um, and a lot of people dispute it because they don't believe in it. It's unsubstantiated by science. Cryptozoology is kind of an offshoot of this. And basically, cryptozoology is like animals that don't exist, but we study them. So the study of cryptids is a pseudoscience, which means fake science. Claims that beings may exist somewhere in the wild, and it's been widely critiqued and criticized by scientists and those in the scientific field. The subculture is regularly criticized for the reliance on anecdotal information. And because of this, investigating is kind of difficult because if you find something, it's kind of difficult to justify it as a fact because these creatures are not supposed to exist. Many sciences have criticized the plausibility of cryptids due to lack of the physical evidence. Let me get a better light. Hang on just a second. Um, Misidentifications can happen, misinterpretations of stories from supposed eyewitnesses or even folklore can also be questioned. Biologists regularly identify new species following established scientific methodology on cryptozoologists. They focus on the entities mentioned in folklore as it's been recorded, and they also follow rumors around to find out about their stories. Um, Cryptozoology is the search for and study of animals whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated, such as the Loch Ness Monster and the Yeti. Also, the study of and the search for animals, especially legendary animals like Sasquatch or our Bigfoot here in the United States, usually in order to evaluate the possibility of existence. Um, it's a pseudoscience, like I said, and the subculture that searches for and studies the unknown, legendary, or extinct animals whose present existence is disputed, unsubstantiated, particularly those in popular folklore. So we're bringing past legends up and kind of revising them, revisiting them, adding to them, and they kind of morph into new legends, so to speak. Nessie is one of them. Bigfoot is one of them. Yeti is one of them. Um, Chupacabra. Jersey Devil, I have never heard of. That was kind of interesting reading about this creature. It's actually, you guessed it, up in New Jersey. And they're very proud of their Jersey Devil. People swear they see it. Uh, Cryptozoology also literally means, like I mentioned, the study of hidden animals and is one of the newest life scientists. And I think it's one of the most interesting and most exciting. All right, so we're moving on to the next slide. The 10 most popular cryptids are the Bigfoot, also known as the Sasquatch, here in North America. And I specifically say North America because it's been found in the USA and in Canada and way far north in those regions. I'm not sure about Mexico, but the chupacabra kind of has that one covered. And it's also in Puerto Rico. The Mothman is kind of interesting. That's found in West Virginia. Yeti is also known as the abominable snowman, and it's found in the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, as some people pronounce it. Thunderbird, that is such a beautiful creature. I loved reading about this one. It's from the Native American nations, and the bunyip is specifically Australian. They're very proud of this particular creature, and they like that it's just in Australia. The Skinwalker, which was popularized by the television program Skinwalker Ranch, is legends from the Navajo Nation. Jersey Devil, like I mentioned, is from New Jersey. The Kraken actually is ancient. It comes from ancient Norse and Scandinavian folklore, and it supposedly ravages the seas and looks for its prey. So the honorable mentions that I found were it's called the Black Shuck. It's in the UK. And this one I'm actually pursuing a little separately because and I'll tell you about that in a second. La Llorona is from Mexico. And then the my screen here. So I have to uncover. Okay. Tatzelwurm is from the Alps in Europe. Gonna go ahead and read about these specific creatures and the animals. Stick that back up here. I don't know if y'all can see that big black bar I keep moving around, and if you do, I apologize. All right, so Bigfoot, Sasquatch from North America. Historically, sightings go back to indigenous oral traditions like the coasts of Salish and Sasquatch. It's pronounced like that, I believe. It could be Canadian. I'm not sure. It's spelled Sesquac rather than the way we do it with the TCH. This creature is described as large and hairy, human-like, roaming the forests. Folklore is magical and mystical. Lots of lore here. Bigfoot is sometimes mentioned and seen as an interdimensional being or a guardian of nature. It appears and disappears at will, which is why people think this, and it's connected to the ley lines or spirit portals. And thank you, Moss. You had mentioned something the last time that I presented a lecture. So I actually pursued this a little bit after we talk about these 13. Bigfoot, also Sasquatch, is deeply rooted in oral traditions and legends of the indigenous North American tribes, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. The word Sasquatch itself is derived from the Coast Salish term Sasquatch, meaning wild man or hairy man. Various indigenous groups have described this large, hairy, human-like creature in the forest and mountains, and sometimes it's regarded as a guardian of nature or a spirit being. It always lives apart from human civilizations. It does not wander in. It's very careful about where it goes. It likes to watch. And I've heard this before. People saying they feel like they're being watched when they're camping or in the woods or something. And that's a pretty common thing for witnesses to say. They're often seen as part of the natural spiritual landscape rather than as mere animals. European settlers in the 19th century also began recording encounters. They saw strange, large footprints, sightings of this great big towering ape-like figures in remote woodlands, and in particularly in the United States and Canada. These historical sightings contributed to the development of the modern Bigfoot mythos. So in addition to the indigenous lore, Bigfoot's image was solidified in popular culture following the 1958 discovery of huge, massive footprints in Bluff Creek, California. I always thought it started like in Mississippi or Louisiana because when I was a kid, my dad wanted to go see the legend of Boggy Creek, and my mom would not go with him So I did. And that's when I kind of got hooked on finding out what this thing was. I think I was 8 or something. And I have been very quietly doing a little research here and there ever since, because it's interesting the way that people present this particular creature.
And yeah, jump in. There is a skunk ape research headquarters in Okeechobee, Florida,
I've heard that. Yeah.
60 miles west of Miami. I have
Cool.
been there. I have been
How
there.
neat. Have you
Yeah.
seen any of the physical evidence from these creatures? Did they have anything?
They had it's not a museum per se, but they
Yeah.
had some artifacts there.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but in any case, it's uh, it is a campground area, and then they have this little area next to
Yeah.
it that is right there down in South Miami.
Oh, that's neat. Okay.
There's
Um,
exhibits with photos and casts of the footprints, and
mhm.
there's a shop, of course.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and continue. I have a few pages I need to tell you all about. And so let's see, 1958, Bluff Creek, California, that brought a lot of widespread media attention to this particular phenomenon. And then it was further amplified back in 1967 with the Patterson Gremlin film, which allegedly captured a Bigfoot on camera. And I'm sure everybody's seen that, which has since been debunked. Um, a lot of people still think it's real and it's held up as cryptid evidence. A lot of the folklore from the world also shares similar wild man archetypes, such as the Yeti in the Himalayas and the Almas in Central Asia. This suggests a global fascination with the concept of a hidden primitive human or hominoid relative. And today, Bigfoot actually endures as a symbol of the untamed wilderness and the mysteries that the forest might still conceal, which blends like history, myth, enduring human curiosity, and even about our own origins and the unexplored corners of the world that we have yet to even find. So that's our number one. Number two, Nessie, also called the Loch Ness Monster from Scotland. A little bit of history. She was first recorded in 565 AD by Saint Columba. Um, this particular cryptid is described as a long-necked aquatic creature in Loch Ness. And from folklore, in Celtic myth, water spirits known as kelpies or issues, which are water horses, can shapeshift and lure people to their waterly deaths. Some folklorists even connect Nessie to these magical beings, which I think are something a little bit different because if you read about kelpies and the shape-shifting ability of those creatures, that's not really what Nessie does, but that's only my opinion. The legend of Nessie or the Loch Ness monster actually originates from Scottish folklore, excuse me, and historical accounts surrounding the Loch Ness. Um, the loch itself, which means lake, is a deep, very murky freshwater lake in Scotland, in the Highlands. The earliest known reference to a creature in Loch Ness dates back to 565 AD. Like I mentioned, when the Irish monk Saint Columba was sent to have encountered a water beast, quote unquote, that had apparently killed a local man and was driven away by Columba's prayers. Over the centuries, local legends have spoken of kelpies or water horses, supernatural shape-shifting beings. Um, and they've talked about these particular creatures luring people to their watery deaths. So everything with those two, the kelpies and the water horses, seems to be very water oriented. Nessie, I'm not so sure. A lot of people have seen supposedly this creature in the middle of the water with the head out, and it doesn't attack anything. It just moves around. Um, It wasn't until the 1930s that Nessie actually became globally famous, and that's thanks to a reported sighting, by a couple in 1933 and subsequent publication of the surgeon's photograph in 1934. This is the one that depicted the long-necked creature rising from the loch. And in this photo, which was later revealed as a hoax, was actually held up as the best piece of evidence there was at the time. Now, despite a lot of skepticism and scientific efforts to debunk the creature's existence, Nessie actually remains one of the world's most iconic cryptids. Some theories about Nessie range from it being the prehistoric plesiosaur, and I know they have done specials on this particular creature and talked about plesiosaurs and how they could still be around today. It's actually a fresh fish like a big sturgeon, or it could even have been misidentified. Natural phenomena such as logs, waves, or maybe even optical illusions could be also explanations because the water's very murky. The depth and unique conditions of Loch Ness, along with the Highlands' mystical and isolated atmosphere, contribute to the ongoing allure of this particular legend. And Nessie has not only become a symbol of Scottish culture and folklore, but also a significant tourist attraction, which is one of the reasons they really want to hang on to it, because it's really cool to think about this creature being alive and real. It usually generates a lot of fascination and global curiosity and a lot of media coverage. The enduring mystery surrounding Nessie also speaks to humanity's fascination with the unknown. I mean, everybody wants to know, what is it? Where is it? What is it? How far is it? Who is it? We're just fascinated by things we don't know. We want to uncover the mystery. Oh, excuse me. So, as far as the world is concerned, it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. Nessie is real and not real. So I guess you can decide for yourself. Our next one is the chupacabra. This one is usually around Mexico or Puerto Rico and throughout the Americas. In history, modern sightings actually began in the 1990s with reports of livestock which was drained of blood. And this creature is described as dog-like or reptilian. I've always heard it described as similar to a dog or a hyena of some course. I'm not sure. There's a lot of different ideas, and I've looked at drawings. This is actually a drawing. I didn't actually find a picture, so not sure about that as evidence, but the whatever it leaves behind has definitely been recorded. In folklore, in magical terms, some associate the chupacabra with blood rituals, curses, or demonic familiars, are servants of the dark magic and that punish greed or environmental disrespect. I thought that was interesting. The chupacabra actually means goat sucker in Spanish. It's relatively recent as a legend and emerged in Puerto Rico in 1995 when reports surfaced of this creature when it was allegedly attacking livestock, particularly goats, and draining their blood. The first eyewitness described it as reptilian, alien-like, with spines running down its back, roughly the size of a small bear. bear, bear. It actually said that. And it was capable of hopping up like a kangaroo. The description she gave was influenced by the alien from the film Species, which was apparently out at that same time. And soon after, reports of similar livestock attacks spread throughout Latin America and the southern United States and even parts of Asia, though later descriptions varied and often resembled wild dogs or canines or candids with severe mange, especially in Texas and the American Southwest. Though the chupacabra is modern in creation, it still has folkloric roots that echo older tales of blood-sucking entities. Some folklorists connect it to Latin American myths of vampires and demonic creatures that prey on animals and humans, blended with indigenous fears of supernatural predators. And additionally, Caribbean folklore actually includes some creatures that suck energy or life essence, and they may have influenced the perception of the chupacabra. The wide popularity is fueled by a lot of sensationalism in the media and fear of genetic experiments, which seem to go on when people want to find cures for illnesses or diseases. Let's see. I lost my place in my notes. Give me half a second. There we go. There's also a growing interest in extraterrestrial life and conspiracy series throughout, and it started really big in the 1990s. And some people tend to attribute this particular animal as some kind of an extraterrestrial that has come to this planet. I don't know about that one, but it's an idea. Explanations attributing many sightings to diseased animals or coyotes with mange. The chupacabra remains a really potent figure in modern folklore, symbolizing fear of the unknown and anxieties that surround invasive threats to both rural and urban life. So, um, take it with a grain of salt, believe it or not. It's also what you believe could be possible. The next one, I thought this was really cool. It's Mothman. It's actually a giant thing with wings. It's from the West Virginia area here in the United States. In history, it was first reported in 1966 around Point Pleasant. It was a large winged humanoid with glowing red eyes. Sometimes, and I saw this written a couple of places, it had green eyes. It was believed in folklore to be a harbinger of doom, especially after the 1967 Silver Bridge collapse. Apparently, somebody or a bunch of somebody's eyewitnesses, whatever, saw this thing around about the same time as the bridge came down. Spiritually, it's viewed by some people as a prophetic spirit, or maybe an interdimensional being, or a type of revenant, or even a fae or fairy messenger. Mothman legends originate from a series of sightings that occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 66 and 1967. Locals were reported to have seen a large winged creature with glowing eyes and a humanoid shape. The first widely reported sighting happened November 15th in 1966, when two young couples described being chased by a creature near an abandoned TNT factory. That was an area that was once used for military munitions storage during World War II. These reports rapidly multiplied with dozens of locals claiming encounters or hearing unsettling high-pitched screams and noises in the area. Mothman sightings actually culminated in the collapse of the Silver Bridge on the 15th of 1967, which unfortunately resulted in 46 deaths. Many contain that the Mothman was definitely either a harbinger of doom here or caused the accident itself. It was kind of unfortunate because it fuels the belief the creature is really real, and apparently things have happened since then to kind of affirm this. In terms of folklore, the Mothman is often compared to the European and Native American legends of omen-bearing creatures such as the Cornish Owlman or various banshee-like spirits from the UK. Of course, all of these foretold disasters or something bad that's going to happen. There are theories that suggest that Mothman could be linked to interdimensional phenomenon, and we'll get into that in a little later. And this is especially given the high concentration of UFO sightings, the strange lights, and the poltergeist activity, which was reported in the area at that particular time, making Point Pleasant a big focal point for paranormal enthusiasts. Um, Other people interpreted Mothman through a psychological or folkloric lens, seeing it as a modern manifestation of collective anxiety. And during this particular time, there was a lot of social upheaval and industrial danger. But regardless of its true origin, the Mothman has actually cemented itself in American folklore. It's inspired books, films, even an annual film festival that keeps that legend alive, both in the local symbology and as a global cryptid mystery. So moving on, we have the Yeti, the abominable snowman, lives in Tibet in the Himalayas. And from history, Himalayan folklore and mountaineering reports describe a white furred ape like creature. And from folklore, Tibetan Buddhism, Yetis are spiritual creatures and they are regarded as spiritual and sacred mountain protectors in the realm. They're seen as manifestations also of spirit animals and nature spirits, possibly even wrathful deities that protect certain energies from outsiders. The Yeti, often called abominable snowman, originates from folklore and spiritual beliefs of the Himalayan people, particularly the Sherpa, the Tibetans, and the Bhutanese communities. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Yeti is sometimes considered a type of raksha or spirit being, not just a physical creature, but a mystical guardian of the high mountain realms. And the word Yeti is actually derived from the Tibetan word Yete, which is spelled Y-E-H hyphen T-E-H, Yete. So that's where we get this, and it means rock bear or man-like creature. Local legends describe the Yeti as tall, ape-like, covered in white or reddish-brown hair, and it resembles a snowy, isolated peak of the mountains. Historical references to the Yeti can be found in ancient Tibetan texts and stories passed down for centuries through different communities and families. This often portrays the Yeti both as a protector and as a potential threat to those who disrespect the sacredness of the mountains. And I thought that was interesting because I've always heard that Tibet was sacred, the whole country for some reason. The Yeti gained global attention in the 19th and 20th centuries, particularly through the accounts of British explorers and mountaineers. Notably, in 1921, members of a British Mount Everest expedition reported finding a large unexplained footprint at very high altitudes. And they attributed this to a wild man of the snows, quote unquote. I'm not sure if they wrote about it or just told people or what. This particular wild man of the snows finding sparked Western fascination, and that led to numerous expeditions and media portrayals. So this is where we get a lot of the information. It's speculative, of course, but there have been so many books and so many TV shows and so many movies and so many references about the Yeti. The Yeti legend is actually rooted in misidentified wildlife, such as bears or surviving prehistoric species. And I'm sorry, I am going to try to pronounce this. It's this prehistoric species like the Gigantopithecus, which is a giant ape that once roamed parts of Asia. And despite scientific skepticism, the Yeti remains a really powerful symbol of mystical, magical, and mystery of the Himalayas and the mountain regions. And it represents both human fear of the unknown and the reverence for nature's untouched domains. The next, we have the beautiful thunderbird from the Native American nations. From history, the legend across indigenous North American tribes, especially the Pacific Northwest, says that a massive bird is appears and is associated with thunder and storms, hence why they call it the Thunderbird. From folklore, this particular creature is deeply magical, and they're revered as powerful spirit beings who control weather and punish disrespect. Often invoked in rituals, they are revered for their strength or protection. Now, the Thunderbird is a very powerful figure, as mentioned in Native American mythology, particularly among the indigenous tribes of the Pacific Northwest, Great Plains, and Great Lakes regions. It's described as an enormous bird with huge wings so vast that they create thunder when they flap, and they have eyes that flash lightning. This is deeply embedded in the spiritual cosmology of the tribes, such as and please forgive me if I mispronounce this, the Haida, the Kwakokwaka, Wakwu, the I'm not sure about this one, Ojibwa, and the Lakota. I got that one. In these particular traditions, the Thunderbird not only and merely is a creature, but a supernatural force of nature. It's often seen as a guardian spirit, bringing rain and storms to fertilize the earth. It's also said to battle great underwater spirits or serpents, maintaining cosmic balance between the sky and the earth. There are a lot of carvings, and you'll see them on totem poles, and you'll hear about them in oral histories that are preserved and passed down, symbolizing power and protection and divine intervention in the natural world. In European historical accounts, settlers and explorers occasionally reference sightings of enormous birds, which they sometimes link to the Thunderbird. They kind of blend indigenous beliefs and the cryptid speculation. Some researchers actually suggested that the myth may have been inspired by the cultural memory of prehistoric megafauna, like the Territorinus, a giant predatory bird that lived during the Ice Age. And the Thunderbird legend persists even today. It has sporadic reports. Every once in a while, you'll get a rash of supposed sightings or people thinking they've seen this, or they've been protected by this creature, or it has brought good luck. It remains, as always, a sacred symbol of natural power and spiritual presence, and it embodies awe and respect due to the forces of the sky and the weather, and continues to play a vital role in ceremonies and storytelling and cultural identity. And this is actually one of my favorites. I love the Thunderbird. And no, I didn't have the car when I was growing up. Our next one, this is the one I found a bit disturbing. It's the Australian bunyip. It's from Aboriginal folklore, and the history behind this creature is that Aboriginal tales speak of a mysterious creature, and it lives in swamps, rivers, and billabongs. Folklore says that it is seen as a guardian of water spirits, punishing those who break taboos. And in Dreamtime stories, according to the Aborigines, the bunyip is sometimes an ancestral spirit being, part protector and part punisher. It's a creature specifically from Australia, and it has Aboriginal mythology as a background. Let's see. It's believed to inhabit swamps and billabongs, creeks, and waterholes throughout the continent. The names comes from a Wamba Wamba language, meaning devil or spirit, though various Aboriginal groups have their own version of the creature with differing descriptions. Traditionally, the bunyip is portrayed as a large, fearsome, water-dwelling beast with features that vary from dog-like or ox-like, or resembling a giant starfish, or maybe a serpentine or a seal-like form. The Aboriginal stories often depict Bunyip as a guardian of water sources, punishing those who venture too close to its domain or disrespect the land and the waterways. A lot of these tales are cautionary to protect sacred sites and ensure water safety, especially for children and unwary travelers. Now, from the 19th century, European settlers in Australia adopted and sensationalized the Bunyip legend. They blended a lot of the indigenous accounts with their own fears of the unknown wilderness, and reports of mysterious animal remains and unexplained noises around water holes fueled a lot of speculation about this creature's existence, and newspapers at that time published a lot of stories of Bunyip sightings. Some people even claim to have discovered fossilized bones of unknown creatures, possibly from the extinct megafauna like the Diprotodon, which was a giant wombat-like creature. The fusion of Aboriginal lore with the colonial curiosity turned the bunyip into both a national myth and a symbol of Australia's enigmatic wildlife. And today, the bunyip remains an iconic figure in Australian folklore. It appears in literature, art, cultural discussions, and the knowledge is very interesting. And it's worth a lot of scientific inquiry because there's really some interesting evidence toward this creature. Now, the next one, we're coming back to the United States, is the skinwalker. This one, actually, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, was born in the Navajo Nation. It's known in Navajo as a Dene, and I don't think I'm pronouncing this right. It's spelled Dine with a little accent over the E. And in tradition, it can shapeshift from a person to an animal. In folklore, skinwalkers are taboo and deeply feared. In magical terms, they're seen as sorcerers who use dark rituals to gain power, and they're often associated with necromancy, astral projection, or spirit theft. Now, the skinwalker originates from the Navajo tradition, as I mentioned, where it is also known as the Yi Nalululashi, meaning with it, he goes on all fours. And I've heard legends when not just from the TV show about Skinwalker Ranch, but I've heard and read other things that this creature can shapeshift. It can walk on two legs, or it can change into its animal form, and it can walk on four legs, and it can move very, very swiftly. In Navajo legend, it's a malevolent witch or shaman who's acquired supernatural ability to transform animals, particularly predatory ones, into wolves, coyotes, or bears by performing dark rituals and breaking sacred taboos. These particular individuals are said to wear skins of the animals they transform into. And the skinwalker is not just a creature, but it's a symbol of spiritual corruption and imbalance, representing someone who's chosen to pursue power through evil means, such as grave desecration, the murder of family, or black magic. The concept is deeply rooted in Navajo culture and is considered highly taboo to discuss openly. And I've heard this a lot. But it's as merely speaking of the skinwalker itself is believed to attract their attention. So you have to be very careful when referencing this animal. Historically, skinwalker stories are told and intertwined with indigenous beliefs about witchcraft, morality, and community boundaries. They serve as cautionary tales about dangers of abusing spiritual power. The legend gains broader attention outside Native communities due to reports from Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, which is a hot spot for alleged paranormal activity, including UFO sightings, poltergeists, and encounters with strange creatures. Some of these let's see. I'm going to skip over that part a little bit. I know that there has been some evidence found at Skinwalker Ranch. However, there has been nothing definitive. And I'm waiting to hear back because there was a couple of episodes where they did find bones of a particular wolf that has supposedly been extinct for like 10,000 years, but they took it to an expert who identified it as this particular creature. So maybe the creature is not extinct after all. Not sure. The combination of the native folklore and the mysterious ranch events and popular culture fascination with this particular supernatural being has elevated the Skinwalker into mainstream cryptid lore. However, for the Navajo and neighboring tribes, the Skinwalker remains a very real and very dangerous figure, and it represents not just an external threat, but the dark potential of human spirit when it turns greedy or turns to harm and is very envious. So be careful. The Jersey Devil. This one was interesting too. I like this one. History has said that this particular creature was born in the 1700s from Mother Leeds, who cursed her 13th child. This creature is described as winged and hoofed. From folklore, blends of colonial witchcraft and fears and local legends actually kind of created this imaginary image. It's seen as a cursed entity, sometimes linked to satanic lore or elemental chaos, spirits born from rage, or even broken oaths. The Jersey Devil originates from Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey, with its most famous legend dating back to the 18th century. According to the prevailing folklore, the creature born to Mother Leeds, who was a local woman, and she cursed her 13th child after giving birth, it turned into a demonic entity. It transformed into this horrifying creature with bat wings, hooves, and a goat-like head and a forked tail, then flew up the chimney and out into the forest. This story is often called the Leeds Devil, which is a legend and may have its roots in colonial tensions, which were going on at that time, as the Leeds family was real and apparently very politically controversial in early New Jersey and associated with publishing and almanacs. So these people were like middle class, they were merchants, they were helping people, they were collecting monies. I'm not sure why she cursed her 13th child. I couldn't find that out. The historical elements combined with Puritan superstitions, which may be because it was number 13, and the region's rugged, isolated landscape may have a lot to contribute to this particular legend also. Now, beyond the primary tale, the Jersey Devil has become a symbol of mystery and fear surrounding the Pine Barrens, a vast, dense forest, and it's known for its eerie stillness and desolation and strange noises. Throughout the 19th and 20th century, sightings of a winged beast-like figure fueled a lot of public hysteria, and especially during the quote-unquote Jersey Devil Panic of 1909. Apparently, dozens of alleged encounters and attacks happened and that were reported across New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Delaware. So this creature apparently moved around a lot. It's also been linked to older Native American stories of malevolent spirits in the woods, although these connections were less direct. The Jersey Devil actually remains a staple of American cryptid culture, kind of like the Bigfoot, and it represents a blend of colonial history, folklore, and human tendency to create monsters from cultural anxieties and unknown wilderness. Our next one, we actually go back overseas, is the Kraken. And I'm sure you have probably heard about the giant squids known as the Kraken, and that's exactly what this is. It has roots way, way, way back, centuries ago in the Viking times. And let's see. I am missing a page. There we go. It appears in a lot of Viking sagas or stories as a sea monster, which is large enough to pull down ships. And they have since found that there are creatures of this size living way, way down in the darkness of the ocean at the bottom, like hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. But they tend to stay down there and they don't come up very often. Um, In folklore, possibly this is inspired by the giant squid, which is one of the creatures that does live way down there. But mythologically, the kraken is connected to the sea gods, especially Agar and Ran, and represents chaos, storms, and unknown depths of the subconscious or magical ocean realms. Now, the kraken originates from a lot of Scandinavian folklore, particularly among the Norwegian and Icelandic seafarers of the Middle Ages. They described it as a massive sea monster, and it's capable of dragging an entire ship and its crew down under the water to their doom. Early accounts, which date back to like the 12th and 13th century, often depict the kraken as a very colossal creature resembling a giant octopus or squid that lurks off the coast of Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. The Orvar Order saga, an Icelandic saga from the 13th century, actually references the sea monsters, and it shares traits with the kraken, while the 18th century writings of Bishop Eric Pontoppidan solidifies the kraken's image in popular lore. Now, this particular person described the creature as so large it could be mistaken for an island. That's pretty big. Its submersion was said to cause maelstroms capable of sinking ships and the waves hundreds of feet high. It echoes a lot of sailors' trepidation about being on the ship and away from land. It has also been said, the creature has been said to cause tremendous whirlpools and big waves that can capsize the biggest ship. Maritime history and folklore intertwined with the kraken legend, especially as sailors began encountering these giant squids, which were real creatures that can grow over 40 feet in length, but they're rarely seen. Actually probably fueled a lot of these stories. Occasionally, these big creatures do surface or are discovered if their remains wash ashore, and that probably fuels a lot of the sea monster stories. Additionally, the fear and the unpredictable nature of the ocean during the age of exploration heightened the belief in the creatures such as kraken, and they serve as a symbolic representation of human vulnerability against the vast unknown seas. Over time, the kraken has evolved from maritime cautionary tale into a cultural icon featured in literature, in art, in modern media, stories, songs, and it's embodied both as the terror and the awe of the deep ocean's mysteries. Those are our 10 most popular cryptids. We're getting into our honorable mentions now. And this is the one I had mentioned before. The black shuck is actually a black dog from the UK. It's legendary with glowing red or green eyes, which is rooted in British folklore, often seen as a bad omen. It's a ghostly black dog, and it portends death or something demonic or something bad that's going to happen. Now, I work out at Scarborough Renaissance Festival, and the black dog is actually part of our, I would say, Renaissance story culture, because we actually use this particular story when we do our interactions with our guests out at the fair. And that is in early Tudor time, anytime from 1500 to 1543. We talk about the black dog. Supposedly, the black shuck was mentioned in 1577, and that is supposed to be the earliest account. So I'm actually researching that. I'm talking to a couple of people I know that are historical experts in Northern England's culture and traditions. So if you're interested, I'll let you know what I find out. Usually, the black shuck is a legendary spectral black dog, and it's particularly associated with the coastal regions of East Anglia, including Norfolk, Suffolk, and Cambridgeshire. It's described as a big black hound with glowing eyes, often seen as an omen of death or misfortune. The earliest and most famous historical count, like I mentioned, dates back to 1577, when, according to records, a monstrous black dog burst into Bungay Church in Suffolk during a violent storm. It killed two people, caused severe destruction, and on the same day, it also is said to have appeared in a nearby town called Blythesborough, leaving claw marks on the church door, which are to this day seen and still there and referred to as the devil's fingerprints. If I ever go to Europe, I'm going to go to this place and I want to see that door because I thought that was kind of neat. These accounts are actually merged with local superstitions and with some real events, and that kind of embeds the black shuck firmly in that regional lore and as a harbinger of doom. So while there's no direct native European cultural equivalent um, to, let's see, to actually say that this is real, there are still people that swear by it. Let's see. Universally, there's been a lot of accounts of ghostly creatures and black dogs and animals that walk on all fours. So that might have been partly where this particular cryptid and the stories had come from. The black shuck still remains a powerful part of British cultural identity, inspiring literature, music, and local legends that keep the eerie tale alive, and particularly in areas where the lines between ancient pagan belief and Christian superstition blurred during the Middle Ages. And that's the first of our honorable mention. The second one is La Llorona, the weeping lady. She's a spirit who has taken the lives of her children. She's part ghost and part cursed woman. Supposedly, she got very angry with either an ex-husband or an ex-lover or something, and to get back at him, she killed two of her children and then realized what she did, and she cried for them, and she killed herself and wanders out around lakes and bodies of water. Um, it's deeply embedded in Mexican and Latin American folklore. It has origins that trace back to pre-Hispanic Aztec mythology and colonial era culture blending. It's one of the earliest indigenous parallels in the Aztec culture, and it's actually very closely related to the goddess Chicototl, which is a spectral woman dressed in white who wept for her lost children and was considered an omen of doom, especially foretelling the fall of the Aztec Empire. Now, following the English conquest, this particular myth merged with the Catholic morality tales and evolved into a story of a beautiful woman named Maria, who was driven by rage and despair, drowned her children in a river after being betrayed or abandoned by her lover or husband. So overcome with grief, she's condemned to wander the earth eternally, crying, oh, my children," in search of their souls. Culturally, La Llorona serves both as a cautionary tale and a moral lesson, and is particularly directed at children to discourage wandering near rivers or disobeying their parents. It also reflects broader themes of betrayal, loss, and social injustice. Over the centuries, the story of La Llorona has spread widely across the Americas, with each region adding a little bit extra of a variation to the original story and the behavior. In contemporary times, La Llorona remains a potent figure in popular culture, inspiring films, literature, songs, stories, even paranormal investigations. And it symbolizes the enduring power of folklore to convey collective fears and unresolved cultural trauma. Our last particular cryptid for the honorable mention is from Europe. It's the Tetzelwurm. This is a serpent-like creature said to guard the mountain passes, and it's sometimes linked to treasure and earth spirits. The Tatzelwurm is a legendary creature rooted in folklore of the Alpine region of Europe, particularly Switzerland, Austria, and southern Germany. It's described as a serpentine or dragon-like creature with a lizard-like body, short, stubby legs, and sometimes the face of a cat. It's been part of local mountain lore since at least the 17th century, and some tales may trace it back even further. Historical records and stories describe it as living in remote caves at high altitudes, in forests, and in rocky mountain passes. And it's said to attack livestock, hunters, and anyone who ventures too close. Its name, the Tatzelwurm, comes from German Tatzel, which means paw, like P-A-W, paw, and Wurm, meaning worm or serpent. Highlighting its particular blend of reptilian and mammalian features, it kind of works together. This particular depiction often resembles a small stubby dragon or a hybrid between a snake and a wildcat. It's reflecting European fascination with dragons and chimeric creatures. And throughout history, the Tatzelwurm has been associated with sightings of unusual animals or misidentified known species, such as large lizards, or otters, which are seen sometimes in unusual conditions in the Alps. Some naturalists and cryptozoologists have speculated that these stories could be distorted accounts of encounters with surviving prehistoric reptiles, or exaggerated tales that are born from isolation and fear of the untamed wilderness. Now, in Alpine culture, the Tetzelwurm became a symbol of the mysterious and dangerous forces which lurk in nature, and especially formidable landscapes of the mountains. They can be really treacherous to pass. Today, it remains popular, and it inspires books and arts, even tourism, which centers around its legend, much like other regional dragon myths that blend into local topography, folklore, and deep-seated cultural archetypes of monstrous guardians of hidden places. Now, I kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit, like I like to do, and the next one is not on the list, but I thought it was interesting because supposedly people say ETs live here. They've come from outer space, they live here, and people swear that they know them or they've seen them. And if you all hear something, that's one of my kitties. She's coming to visit. So speculative bonus, extraterrestrial aliens. So are aliens from outer space really considered cryptids? While I was doing research on the internet, I found that while cryptozoology primarily focuses on animals whose existence is disputed, and the term can extend to extraterrestrial beings, some believe that cryptids are, in fact, aliens, and some cryptids are even described as being extraterrestrial of origin. So I thought that was interesting. Hadn't heard that one before. Aliens are extraterrestrial creatures from space, and to date, there's really been no direct observational evidence of extraterrestrial life, according to scientists. Aliens are believed to be demons by some people. Most of the same scientists, however, believe that it's very likely life does exist outside our planet. Many of them also believe that it's nearly impossible to think that there could be no other intelligent life anywhere in the universe. Astronomers have observed dozens of planets orbiting stars other than our sun, and they suggest that other Earth-like planets exist in the universe, and possibly other creatures with intelligence and space technology could have come here. Now, considering the unimaginable vastness of space, the idea of this intelligent life actually visiting us is very speculative within the scientific community. And in fact, most scientists believe interstellar space travel of this particular magnitude, being that far, is impossible. For us to reach our nearest star outside our universe, which is Proxima Centauri in the Alpha Centauri system, it would take 4.2 light years, which is huge. That's actually, let's see, I had it written down here. Let me find it. Alpha Centauri is actually 4.4 light years away from us, our solar system. Proxima Centauri is actually 4.2 light years away from us. So it's a little bit closer. It would take roughly, the 4.2 light years is roughly 18,000 years for them to reach us, unless they had something like an Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is a wormhole, or something similar, or FTL drives or something. So I kind of went a little bit further than just checking on the culture and the folklore. This particular slide is origins, modern popularity, and why they're still popular. So I've listed everything except the alien. We all know why aliens are popular, because people like to think and speculate and believe that something else is out there. It's like the old TV show I'm not going to name, and they always said, I choose to believe. Well, you can believe it or not. It's totally up to you. This particular chart's a continuation of the previous information and maybe exploring some possibilities that we haven't mentioned. So, cryptids, origin type, why they're popular. Elaborated origin of Bigfoot, indigenous North America folklore merged with European wild man myths, modern sightings. They're very popular because they're a symbol of nature's mystery. They fit the archetype of the hidden other, and they tap into primal wilderness fear and awe. Loch Ness origin, it's both myth and historical. They likely evolved from ancient Kelpie, possibly, maybe. There's myths in Celtic lore. There's historical sightings of Loch Ness dating back to 565 AD. Why they're still popular? Well, supposedly they're a wonderful mystery, and there's quote unquote photographic evidence that keeps everything alive. Also, big tourism in Scotland. Chupacabra, modern myth, and historical echoes. Now, modern reports began in 1995, but it echoes the vampire and the bloodsucker demonic creature stories from Latin American folklore. They're still popular because it speaks to rural fears, lost livestock, distrust of institutions. This is easily adaptable to modern conspiracy theory and conspiracy culture. The Mothman, modern myth and paranormal archetype, first appeared in 1966, ties to ancient archetype. Maybe winged harbingers, angels of death, banshees. Popular because it's associated with a real tragedy, the Silver Bridge collapse. Makes it a really popular urban legend. The Yeti, mythological with a historical base, rooted in Tibet and Sherpa spiritual traditions, possibly influenced by fossil knowledge of the giant Epithecus. That would be interesting to pursue as just a nice read to find out more about these fossils. They're still popular because it's a global fascination. People love the Himalayas. It's a spiritual place. Tibet is always pictured as somewhere you go for like a sabbatical or to relax or to recoup yourself or rebalance. The Thunderbird, specifically mythological, very deeply embedded in Native American oral traditions, seen as sky spirits or divine enforcers. Very popular, represents raw elemental power with indigenous respect for nature, often appears in cultural media and symbolism. The Bunyip, mythological with historical possible roots. The elaborated origin is Aboriginal Dreamtime stories, which I do believe we mentioned, that I mentioned earlier. Is described as a spiritual or an animal guardian. Fossil megaflora may have inspired this. I don't know what kind of fossils they found, but apparently they're interesting to be able to substantiate this particular cryptid. They're still popular because it remains distinctly Australian. It blends with ancient myth and is possible zoology with unique regional flavor. Australians are very happy this is very much theirs and nobody else's. Skinwalker, mythological, cultural, historical, based in Navajo witchcraft lore and associated with deep spiritual taboos and ancestral trauma. It's still popular because it's feared and it's taboo. It feeds modern horror, true crime, paranormal interest. It's tied also to cursed lands and ley lines. And we all know there's big ley line crosses up there at Skinwalker Ranch. I did the research. I was talking about it the last couple of times that we talked about ley lines. We're moving on to Jersey Devil across the other side of the United States. Colonial folklore and myth. Not sure if I really believe so much in this one, but I don't live in New Jersey. A 17th century era folk tale from Mother Leeds, mixed with old European demonic myths, is its elaborated origin. Now, it's still popular because its regional specificity and grotesque appearance of this particular creature make it perfect for spooky folklore and local identity. And of course, it always brings in tourists. The Kraken, mythological, nautical, historical. The elaborated origin is Norse sagas, sailor stories about sea monsters, likely based on sightings of giant squids, which is totally plausible because we've had historical accounts from people that have crossed the ocean on ships, and they have written in the journals stories about seeing these giant things come out of the water. It's still popular because ocean mystery and ancient fears of the deep keep the Kraken alive in popular games and films and books, of course. The Black Shuck, totally mythological. British folklore has it listed as a ghost dog, likely tied to Celtic and Norse underworld animal myths. It's still popular because it taps into fears of death and omens and appears in Gothic and horror narratives pretty regularly. La Llorona is mythological and it's a colonial tragedy. The elaborated origin is that it is rooted in Spanish colonial era legends as an older Aztec goddess stories. It's still popular because it's universally relatable with its theme of grief and motherhood and supernatural punishment, especially in ghost lore. The Tetzelwurm is folkloric and symbolic in history. Its elaborated origin is alpine folklore, perhaps inspired by fossils found or encounters with unknown animals at high altitudes. It's still popular because it merges dragon lore, which is very, very popular in the Alps and that part of Europe, with real geography, and the mountains are a very strong regional identity in alpine culture also. Patterns in the origins, mythological roots We have the thunderbird, the bunyip, the kraken, the black shuck, La Llorona, and the Tatzelwurm. Historical sightings and myth, and when they fuse together, we have Bigfoot, Nessie, Yeti, Mothman, Jersey Devil. And modern creation with myth echoes. We have the Chupacabra, we have the Mothman, and the Skinwalker. Very popular right now. So, why do they actually endure in popular culture? Well, archetypes never die. Cryptids are archetypical. They embody primal fears, darkness, isolation, water, wilderness. They serve as shadow figures for collective psychology. Unresolved mystery. The lack of definitive proof keeps them in the public fascination. They always want more. They always want to find out more. They always want to know if somebody else found out more. Cultural adaptability. Cryptids adapt easily across time periods, from oral legends to horror movies to ancient runes to TikTok. Geographical identity. Many cryptids have regional identities of their own mythological mascot, like Nessie in Scotland, Mothman in West Virginia. And this also adds local mystery and tourism, of course. Paranormal magical appeal. A lot of people are interested in metaphysics, earth energies, and spiritual phenomena, and cryptids help fuel that. Now, there are also a lot of interesting things where mystical and magical and speculative aspects of cryptids truly come alive beyond the folklore, beyond the zoology, into the realm of earth consciousness and the dimensional thresholds. We have the collective psyche. And I have some information here about the theories that place cryptids beyond the physical. The theory is that cryptids can manifest, and they can be manifestations of Earth's consciousness. They can be actual Gaian entities, Gaia meaning Earth. So if the theory is Earth is sentient and it's a conscious being, then cryptids are semi-autonomous manifestations of her immune systems and guardians of sacred sites or energetic modes. Their function being to arise to protect and warn or recalibrate energy where human activity has damaged natural balance, like if there's pollution or desecration of sacred land, overuse of technology, something else is going on. Examples of this are the forest guardian, Bigfoot, water guardian, Bunyip, storm regulator, which is the Thunderbird, or the high altitude sentinel, which is the Yeti. Cryptids are also considered sometimes ley line guardians or sentinels. Where ley lines are the nervous system of the earth, cryptids are natural or etheric sentinels posted at ley line nodes, much like the chakras. Their function is to monitor energy flow, maintain vibrational harmony, and activate during spiritual upheaval, trauma, or ritual activity. Ley line examples are the Mothman, which appears during electromagnetic stress before disasters, the Black Shuck, which can manifest at death-laden crossroads or old war sites. Think of Gettysburg. That's maybe possible where you could see something like this. The Tesselworm, inhabiting dragon lines, which is the European ley line variant. Now, cryptids as dimensional interlopers or time slips. And I thought this was interesting also. Y'all know my rabbit holes. I love rabbit holes. The theory here is high energy zones like ley lines, intersections, vortices, and sacred mountains can thin the veil between dimensions, and cryptids, being beings from parallel Earths or fey realms, dream worlds, from ancient times, can cross over back and forth. Their functions Even though their sightings are momentary bleed-throughs, they slip between the timelines or dimensional rips, and they may not be native to our plane, but they can still be seen. Examples are Nessie or Kraken. They're aquatic echoes from an earlier Earth age. The Skinwalker, which is a practitioner or a spirit that steps through between realms. The Mothman, which is an extra-dimensional psychic herald. I thought that was interesting. Cryptids can be collective psychic projections. And the theory here is in occult traditions like Tibetan mysticism, excuse me, a tulpa is a being created through intense mental focus. Cryptids might be psychic echoes made real by collective fear, fascination, or even a spiritual belief. Their function is that they serve as physicalized expressions of cultural archetypes or collective trauma. And like Jungian shadow beings, they can be brought to life. Examples are La Llorona, having the guilt and the grief of generations of colonized people, Jersey Devil, paranoia of isolation and early frontier trauma, or the Chupacabra, which exploits the fears and the genetic manipulation. Cryptids can be fairy-like elementals or astral wildlife, so to speak. The theory here is that they may be members of the Fae. They can be elemental, astral ecosystems, often invisible to humans, except during shifts in energy or perception, maybe even meditation. The function is to live parallel to us in a layered Earth, specifically coexisting in different frequencies. Ley lines are conduits, as you remember from my last lecture, for their travel or manifestations. And if they get on a ley line, they can move quickly because of the energy flow. Examples of this are Bigfoot as an earth elemental, Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, as a water spirit or dragon of the deep, Thunderbird as a storm elemental or an air fae or fairy, Skinwalker as a corrupted shemistic elemental. Cryptids can also be cursed or residual echoes. And the theory behind this is that places soaked in emotional or spiritual trauma, like battlefields, mass graves, cursed sacred grounds, can produce residual energetic beings like spectral loops or curses turned autonomous. Their function is to act as a living grief, vengeance, or ancestral punishment. And sometimes this is tied to land or bloodlines until purified or healed. La Llorona is a good example, tied to historical and motherhood and trauma. The Black Shuck, that's plague related, or Old Gallows is sometimes where this animal shows up. Chupacabra shows up near bioresearch centers or desecrated lands. And the last interesting fact I hear are cryptids as gatekeepers or threshold beings. Now, the theory behind this is ancient myths speak of beings that guard gates between worlds, realms, states of consciousness, and cryptids may be the sentinels of the in-between areas between each plane of existence. Their function is to prevent unworthy or unaware individuals from accessing spiritual insight or other dimensions. And their appearance signals the presence of a gateway, whether spiritual or physical. Examples of this are Yeti, they guard the Himalayas and the spiritual peaks, the Skinwalker, and this is the third time that one's been mentioned, blocking entry to sacred indigenous dreamscapes. Mothman, appearing during planetary energetic shifts. And we are going to go on to the next slide here. So, for those of you that asked about ley lines, Moss, thank you for putting me on this particular path. It's a really a fascinating angle, examining cryptids through the lenses of ley lines, which are the supposed energetic crisscrosses that surround the earth and connect ancient and sacred and powerful sites and many different places holding specific sacred energies. Um, this is interesting because a lot of the cryptid sightings and the supernatural phenomenon tend to cluster near the crisscrosses, the particular crosses and the matrix of the geomagnetic influence of what's at work there. There's a breakdown of the 13 cryptids exploring their potential connection to ley lines, the geographic correlations and mystic implications. And I'm just going to briefly go over this because it's kind of long. Um, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the connection is really strong. Pacific Northwest, really a big hotbed. Their mystical implication is they travel a lot or they emerge from dimensional rifts. And some theories say Bigfoot exists on the border between physical and astral worlds, appearing in high energy zones. Nessie, she is moderate to strong in her connection and geographic correlation. Um, Nessie is actually near several ancient stone circles and megalithic sites in Scotland, which are often linked to ley lines. The implications are that she acts as a dimensional mirror and possibly emerges from underwater portals that are aligned with the Earth grids. The Chupacabra, kind of a moderate connection. Geographical correlation is that it appears near old colonial churches and sacred indigenous grounds or forgotten temples in Puerto Rico and Mexico. Um, Implications is that it could be an energetic parasite feeding off electromagnetic stress or blood ritual residue. Mothman is very strong. The geographical correlation is Point Pleasant, of course, which sits along a very powerful ley line linked to mounds and ancient ceremonial earthworks of the Adena people. Mystical implication is the belief that by some, this is to be an interdimensional warning entity, and the Mothman may ride the current of the ley line like a wave. I kind of get that because of his wings, you know? The Yeti, abominable snowman, very strong. He's correlated to the Himalayas and specifically Mount Kailash, which is actually one of the specific earth chakras. And we'll get to that in a moment. Mystical implication is that the Yeti may be a guardian spirit of lay points in high altitude terrain, possibly a tulpa, which is a thought form energized by collective consciousness. Thunderbird is also extremely strong, correlated to native sacred sites such as the Black Hills, Mount Shasta, which is actually another earth chakra, and Sedona, which is a wonderful, wonderful energy vortex here in the United States. All of these are on ley lines. All of these are home to Thunderbird legends. The implication is that the Thunderbird may embody storm energy riding along ley currents and manipulating weather. The Bunyip is a moderate connection, correlation to Australian Dreamtime song lines, and it may act similarly to ley lines, mapping sacred geography through myth and energy. And I don't know if anybody has ever heard about how strong the Aboriginal folklore is, but it's very, very similar to our Native American culture here. They are very family oriented. They're very culture oriented over in Australia. So I can see the bunyip here, why it would be important to these people. The mystical implication is that the bunyip could be a guardian of water-based portals. Skinwalker, moderate to strong connection. Skinwalker Ranch is near fault lines, uranium deposits, and anomalous EMF zones. And I found the information that says it is a possible ley line intersection. However, I happen to know because I've seen like over 200 ley line maps that there is a line going straight through the middle of that ranch. The implication here is that the skinwalker said to use ley line for ritual travel. Thought that was neat. Intersections of trauma, spiritual violation, and natural energy may birth these beings. The Jersey Devil has actually a weak to moderate connection, and the correlation is specifically the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. The implication is that maybe more tied to emotional or psychic residue. But some believe it guards or haunts a broken or corrupt ley zone. I have not researched this. I thought that was another fact on my list that I'm going to go and fish up. The Kraken, very symbolic, very mythic. It did not say weak, moderate, or strong. It said symbolic or mythic. Correlation, deep oceans, trenches. It's said to have housed energetic grid points, like the Bermuda Triangle, for example. The implication is the Kraken may be a sea-based power mode guardian, awakened by disharmony in the oceanic ley grid or deep sea tectonic ley disruptions. Honorable mentions, the Black Shuck, very strong, many sightings near churches, crossroads, burial mounds. Implication is that this is seen as a spirit guardian or a death harbinger. La Llorona, moderate connection. Correlation, she's tied to rivers, wells, old mission grounds, many of which were built on sacred indigenous ley paths. The implication is that she is a cursed ghost bound to water ley currents. The Tetzelwurm of the Alps. Correlation is moderate. The connection, excuse me, is moderate. Correlation is that the Alps are very rich in dragon lore, sacred springs, and ancient megaliths, many aligned to celestial points. The implication is that this may be a mountain guardian of energetic gateways tied to dragon lines and could act as a liminal spirit between Earth and the underworld realm. Let's see. So we have varying line strengths from these cryptids. All of them are connected. All of them have roles to fill. And I have a couple of pictures here. This first one, the little whirls are energy centers or energy vortexes. These are just the biggest ones. There are a lot more. And a lot of cryptids tend to gather around the vortices here. They also tend to gather around the chakras, which are the colored little points all over. So starting on the left, the green is the heart chakra of the earth. The purple is the crown chakra of the earth. Down to the orange in South America, that's the sacral chakra. Up to Britain, that's Glastonbury. This one is actually not, let's see, how did they term it? I have it on the next slide. I can't remember exactly what it is. This one is not tied to any specific area. However, right now, and for the next like almost 1,000 years, it is connected or likes to hover around Glastonbury and that particular area. There's a lot of vortices right there from Eastern Europe down to the Mediterranean area and South Africa, going into India, where we have that beautiful blue, that is the third eye chakra. And over to the yellow, that one is the solar plexus chakra. And then down to the red in Australia, that is the root chakra. And I apologize for the next slide. I tried to overlay it and I did it very badly, but at least it's something. One of these days, I'm actually going to take the time, which is probably going to be at least a month. I'm going to find all this information and I'm going to put it on a map. So this one is the base. I overlaid it as close as I could with the other particular map that I was looking at. Now, the crisscross wavy lines are the dragon lines. The low one that starts in the left is the female serpent line. That is the imaginary serpent dragon that flies through the air all around the earth, and she just keeps going and going. The upper curve line is the male rainbow serpent who also flies. And if you'll look, they actually come together at two different points over in South America and then right across there. And I'm not sure what country that is. I couldn't find out. But if anybody's interested, I will look it up. But there's different crosses, there's different information. It has where the different chakras are. And we're very lucky here in the United States, actually in the Americas on this particular continent, North and Central and South America, we have a lot of energy and things going on. Okay. So this is a particular map style of an infographic overlay, or what I could actually try to do that. Some of the cryptid hotspots are usually by all of this energy. The global ley lines are there. Can't really see very much of them. Let's see, Sedona, Arizona is there. It's represented. Glastonbury in the UK. That's where the throat chakra is, the light blue. Uluru in Australia, Mount Shasta in California, Lake Titicaca, which is in Peru and Bolivia, the Giza Plateau in Egypt, and there's a lot of different ancient sacred sites. And the dragon lines, of course. This kind of map visually explores how cryptids might cluster near ley lines, how they move, and the sacred geometry or the paranormal thin places on Earth where people actually think they see them, or they do see them, or they appear. Cryptids by their mythic type. I went ahead and I classified these. We have Earth Guardians, which are Bigfoot, Yeti, and Tetzelworm. Water Spirit, Nessie, Bunyip, Kraken. We have Sky Sentinels, which is the Thunderbird and the Mothman. Shadow Beings, which is the Skinwalker, the Black Shuck, and La Llorona. Dimensional or Psychic Beings, which is the Mothman, Skinwalker, and Chupacabra. Glastonbury Tour, that was the other name I was trying to think of. Mount Shasta in California, Nazca Lines in Peru, Lake Champlain. I'm actually surprised this cryptid did not make the top 10 list, because that's here in the United States. It's a ley-influenced cryptid called Champ out of Lake Champlain. Believe it's up in the Great Lakes area. And mythic or symbol connections. Thunderbird, obviously, Nazca Lines, shares the sky being symbolism. Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Tetzelworm, mountain cryptids near ley active peaks, very high up. Skinwalker, La Llorona, Black Shuck, shadow beings appearing at trauma nodes or spiritual borderlands. There's also dimension portals and anomaly zones, such as Sedona, Arizona. Some of them actually have great big energy vortexes or anomalies associated with them. Skinwalker Ranch is another one. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where the Mothman is, and the Bermuda Triangle, where the Kraken or any sea anomaly can be present. Another point of possible interest, and I did not pursue this one, time warp zones, places where strange time slip stories occur, such as Loch Ness Monster. It's here and then it's gone, and it's here and it's gone. Loch Ness is not accessible to any ocean. They're not sure how the thing gets out. Skinwalker Ranch, same thing. They don't know where it goes. Astronomical alignments. They show how ley lines converge and how they may relate to constellations or eclipses even they're really great for lore-rich maps, such as these overlays. You can also do tectonic zones. You can work with the geology of Mother Earth. Some cryptids might correlate with the Earth's stress points, like Mothman does before earthquakes. Little bit of extra info I just happened to jot down here. Cryptid hotspots, along with most sacred places on Earth, many of which really intrigue and overlap with ley lines and ancient power centers, are places of extreme emotion or sites of persistent mystery that are kept alive and active by further speculation, interest, and intrigue. Different hotspots around the world. There's actually quite a few of them. There's a lot of our cryptids that appear. Pacific Southwest is a big one. Scotland, Britain, Nepal, US, Puerto Rico, Texas, even New Mexico, Australia, Switzerland, Austria for the Tatzelwurm, England, South America. So it's on every single continent. Egypt, Australia, Peru, California, Bolivia, Peru, Israel. And we already looked at India. Some key observations that I made here, several cryptid hotspots actually align with regions that are really rich in indigenous or ancient spiritual traditions, like the Himalayas, the Pacific Northwest, and the Amazon in South America. Many sacred sites sit on global ley lines or geomagnetic anomalies, suggesting that a possible energetic connection exists. Events that are full of emotion or violence are really good possibilities for this too. Locations like Mount Shasta, Glastonbury, and Sedona are sacred sites, and they report centers of paranormal or cryptid activity regularly, and particularly are tied to interdimensional or spiritual phenomena. I tried to combine what I could in this particular lecture here. I do have a small bonus right here. This is the bonus unified theory, the geomantic matrix. So what if cryptids, ley lines, and ancient monuments and paranormal activities are all components of one earth-based spiritual intellectual system? So in this possible model that we could think about, ley lines could represent the energetic bloodstream of Mother Earth. Sacred sites could represent the energy nodes or the consciousness glands. Cryptids, the immune system or the regulatory system, which would function like psychic antibodies or power avatars. And of course, the human myth, which would interface language between Earth's spirits and our psyches. So in this view, cryptids are not actually outliers. They are symptoms of something very deep, very big, very intricate, and entwined with our human culture, not just individual cultures of our backgrounds or our lineages. It's our human culture, because we exist as humans, as not just individuals, but we are all connected. Maybe it could be warnings. They could be protectors. They could be teachers. They could be boundary keepers. It just kind of depends on what's happening in our lives and what we encounter, or what we're tuned with. So anybody have any questions, comments, or observations? I can open the floor up. And I would like to thank everyone for being here. And let me know what your thoughts are. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this particular PowerPoint presentation so we can continue with questions if you'd like. And I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you all for letting me do this.
That was amazing.